Greetings to all. Warm Advent blessings to all of you. My dear sisters and brothers and my dear friends, this is your Pastor Yeti. Friday. I'm going to talk today of the challenge of forgiveness. Matthew 18, verses 21 to 35. Then Peter came to Jesus. Master, he said, how many times must I forgive my brother when he sins against me? As many as 7 times? I wouldn't say 7 times, replied Jesus. Why not? 70 times 7. So, you see, he went on, the kingdom of heaven is like a royal personage who wanted to settle up accounts with his servants. As he was beginning to sort it all out, one man was brought before him who owned 10,000 talents. He had no means of paying it back, so the master ordered him to be sold, with his wife and children and everything he possessed, and payment to be made. So the servant fell down and prostrated himself before the master. Be patient with me, he said, and I'll pay you everything. The master was very sorry for the servant and let him off. He forgave him the loan. But that servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 dinars. He seized him and began to throttle him. Pay me back what you owe me, he said. The colleague fell down and begged him, be patient with me and I'll pay you. But he refused, and went and threw him into prison until he could pay the debt. So, when his fellow servants saw what had happened, they were very upset. They went and informed their master about the whole affair. Then his master summoned him. You're a scoundrel of a servant, he said to him. I let you off the whole debt because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have taken pity on your colleague like I took pity on you? His master was angry and handed him over to the torturers until he had paid the whole debt. And that's what my heavenly Father will do to you, unless each of you forgive your brother or sister from your heart. There are several ways of putting the point. Every time you accuse someone else, you accuse yourself. Every time you forgive someone else, though you pass on a drop of water out of the bucketful that God has already given you. From God's point of view, the distance between being ordinarily sinful, what we all are, and extremely sinful, what the people we don't like seem to be, is like the distance between London and Paris seen from the point of view of the sun, and so on. We can all relate to that. The key thing, as I have already said, It's not that one should therefore swallow all resentment and forgive and forget, as though nothing has happened. The key thing is that one should never ever give up making forgiveness and reconciliation one's goal. If confrontation has to happen, as it often does, it must always be with forgiveness in mind, never revenge. It must always be fit the aim of healing the wounded relationship, not leaving it to fester. But underneath that there is another lesson, more subtle perhaps, but equally important. Why does Jesus solemnly say in the last verse that those who refuse to forgive will themselves be refused forgiveness? Isn't that, to put it bluntly, so harsh as to be out of keeping with the rest of the gospel? Can't God override our failings at exactly that point? Apparently not. At least I don't know about can't, but it seems that he won't. The New Testament speaks with one voice on this subject. Forgiveness isn't like a Christmas present that a kindly grandfather can go ahead and give to a sulky grandchild, even if the grandchild hasn't bought a single gift for anyone else. It isn't like the meal that will be waiting for you back home, even if you fail to buy a cheese sandwich and a cup of tea for a tramp on the street. It's a different sort of thing altogether. Forgiveness is more like the air in your lungs. There's only room for you to inhale the next lungful when you've just breathed out the previous one. If you insist on withholding it, refusing to give someone else the kiss of life he or she may desperately need, you won't be able to take any more in yourself. And you will suffocate very quickly. Whatever the spiritual, moral, and emotional equivalent of the lungs may be. We sometimes say the heart, but that of course is a metaphor as well. It's either open or closed. If it's open, able and willing to forgive others, it will also be open to receive God's love and forgiveness. But if it's locked up to the one, it will be locked up to the other. Peter's questions and Jesus' answers says it all. In verse 21 and 22, if you're still counting how many times you've forgiven someone, you're not really forgiving them at all, but simply postponing revenge. 70 times 7 is a typically bit of Jesus' teasing. What he means, of course, is don't even think about counting, just do it. How do you reflect on this question I will give to you? How can you become more forgiving? Why is the phrase forgive and forget misleading? The challenge of forgiveness. We all have a way to go in that. Sometimes we are so hurt, damaged, angry, that we have to find a way to make our heart ready to a true forgiveness, so that those who did it to us or as we did to the others also. Find a way to live. Don't put change around people. Unchange them so that they have a way, a life, as you have. Let our hearts be an open heart for forgiveness, because that's the way that we find our healing. And we don't have to do it alone. We have our Christ. This is your Pastor Yeti.